hate that. This is exactly what I say to patients. I'm like, can I have a bit of a chat with you about why you're in the hospital? And I'm like, why do I say that? Why? A bit of a chat. Ugh, I need to stop saying that. Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. So a 15-week term is coming to a close, so I thought what better time to talk about how it's gone, talk about what I've done, all of the above. I'm back home, as you can tell. I still have a week left, but it's all online, so I was like, I'm gonna come home. I filmed sporadically throughout this term. There's a lot that just hasn't seen the light of day. I have some clips from Ipswich at the end of this video because I have them and I've done nothing with them and I can't do anything with them, so I was like, you can have them, you can have them. You may also notice that I don't sound as completely dead inside in this video. I haven't really talked about it a lot and I don't think I will talk about it in the near future. I don't know, but I've been clinically depressed for a really long time now, and I feel like we're finally maybe coming out of it, and I'm finally not completely. So yeah, I know it may be shocking to hear, but yeah, and also I filmed this video once before yesterday and I hated it and it was way too rambly, so I'm gonna try and get to the point, she says whilst rambling. This video is sponsored by Brilliant. There'll be more on that later on in the video, so stick around if you want to learn how you can improve your understanding of STEM through fun and interactive problem solving. Let's get started. So the first 2 weeks were the introductory course, which I did film. They packed so much into 2 weeks. It was pretty much all Zoom. There was some introductory teaching from clinicians, from 5th years. There was a little bit about what to expect, but to be honest, it was so fast-paced, so busy. I had no idea what was going on half the time, and in all honesty, I did not feel prepared for placements by the end of it, so I'm not sure if that needs a little bit of rethinking. I think there was just a lot to squeeze into 2 weeks and it was just exhausting, to be honest, and mildly terrifying. So yeah, that's all I've got to say on that front. And then we move on to the first of the 2 main blocks for first term at Cambridge, which are core clinical methods. So these 2 blocks are sort of placements, but essentially just made for us to get used to being on placement and being on wards and spending time clinically. 2 lots of 4 weeks. One of them is regional and one of them is in Addenbrooke's. By regional, Addenbrooke's is the Cambridge Teaching Hospital, and then there are, I want to say 7 hospitals that are very loosely in the region, and you basically get shipped off there for the majority of the year, to be honest. I've been in Ipswich. It's so far away. But the regional block focuses a lot more on integrating into the team on the ward. You get a lot more time spent clinically, and the Addenbrooke's block is a lot more teaching and not very much time spent on wards. So I guess there's a balance there, but I had my regional block first and I was petrified. I feel I was not ready. I didn't know what I was doing. You kind of just turn up and they're like, go have fun on the wards, off you pop. And it was scary, I'm not gonna lie, because you just don't know what you're doing, you don't know what you're supposed to be doing. No one really is expecting you there, so they don't know what you're meant to be doing either. But that having been said, I did actually have a really good time. I much preferred this block. Besides the travelling and the accommodation, I had a good time. I was on AMU, which is the acute medical unit or emergency assessment unit, or one of the other 50 names that they call that ward. It's not a typical ward, it's an assessment unit, so people go from ED or GP or wherever else they get referred from, and basically patients will spend up to 72 hours on that ward before they get either discharged or transferred to a different ward in the hospital. So it's very much acute medicine, very much sort of clerk the patient, figure out what's wrong, get them sorted, which, not gonna lie, initially was really daunting because it's so fast paced and it's not a normal ward and there's no kind of continuity of care there. Whereas on other wards, there's obviously a ward round, you see the same patients, they're there pretty much probably most of the time that you're there as well. But with hindsight, this was honestly the best placement I could have had as my first placement. I really, really did like it because you learn so much so quickly. There's so much to see. There's such a huge variety of patient presentations. There's so much opportunity to learn. As much as I said I did love it, the first week was really difficult. I ended up having a bit of a breakdown on the Wednesday, I think, because everything just kind of culminated. Like, I was so overwhelmed. I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. I just felt so in the way. And yeah, it wasn't a great time, but it did pick up. So definitely as the weeks went on, I got more and more comfortable with, you know, asking junior doctors to shadow them, to just follow them when they're clerking patients. Towards the end, I was literally just like, is there a patient to see? Can I talk to them before you talk to them? And that way I could practice, you know, presenting back. I could clerk them without knowing anything about them, so it would really help. And then I could follow them through to consultant review as well, so I could see the entire journey. And that was by far the most helpful thing that I did. We had half a day in theatre. I was in orthopedics. I mean, watching people hammer stuff into shoulders is very interesting. We also spent some time in clinic. We had a bunch of kind of short teaching about systems, so gastro, cardio. We had radiology teaching, just some basic introductory stuff. We had practical skills teaching. But in general, there was a lot of freedom in regional, which is why I think I much prefer it. You were basically free to do whatever you wanted. You could go onto the ward whenever you wanted. I ended up going in for afternoons and evenings rather than mornings because I found the mornings to be a bit less useful because everyone was really busy. The Addenbrooke's block was split into fortnights. So the teaching heavy fortnight I had first, which basically we weren't allowed on wards at all. It was just teaching, as the name suggests. There was a lot. There was communication skills teaching, which is with a simulated patient, which is always interesting. There was a lot of practical skills teaching. They just shoved everything into those 2 weeks, which was actually so fun. The practical skills tutors in Cambridge and in Ipswich, to be fair, are all so lovely, and it was so much fun. And we also had lectures like pediatrics, radiology, again, just a lot of teaching. And then the teaching light fortnight, you're supposed to be on wards for half a day, so we had mornings in the first week and afternoons in the second. But because they still have so much teaching, it often clashes. So I ended up only being on wards about 4 or 5 times in that entire fortnight, which just seems like a little bit of a waste. I was put on the surgical assessment unit, ironically another assessment unit, but yeah, I mean, again, it's a good place to be able to take a bunch of histories, even though we were barely there, so we didn't really take a lot of histories, but the doctors there were generally a lot more used to teaching, I think, and having students around, obviously because it's a teaching hospital. So it was a nice change to sort of turn up and they'd, rather than having to be like, please, can I follow you, or please, is there something to do? They'd just kind of be like, oh, you're a student, go talk to this patient and then come back to me, which is just nice because it takes some of the pressure off of you. But in general, this placement was a lot more chaotic. It was a lot more chill, I will say. That's probably because I still actually have lectures to catch up on. But it was nice to be at home and not have to ferry my stuff back and forth. In between those two blocks we had R&I week, which is review and integration week, which is what I'm on right now. So that is basically a week of pure teaching. It was all online, and there is just so much teaching. It's like 9 to 5 days with very little breaks. But they have stuff like clinico-pathological sort of conference sessions. They have therapeutics teaching. They have other stems that we need to cover, like improving health, palliative care, stuff like that. And then after those two blocks were done, we had another week which was formative review, which I didn't know what to expect from beforehand, but essentially it ended up just being a bit of a holiday, which was nice. I mean, I should have really used it to catch up on work, but of course, me being me, I did in fact treat it like a holiday. But there was basically barely anything on. We just had like a practical skills review session where we peer assessed each other, and we also had a mock SBA paper, like the one that we're going to sit at the end of the year, and that is essentially all we really did that week. It was a much welcome break before the last lot of this honestly has gone on forever. The last 2 weeks of placement were the first of our 4 main blocks this year. So we have surgery, emergency, medicine, and SSC, which is student selected component. So that's sort of like researchy. You can do it clinically, you can do audits, get publishing stuff done, basically on whatever interests you, which we're not going to get into that because it's a bit of a sore subject right now because I have no idea what I want to do. But my first block was surgery, so we have 6 weeks of surgery this year, and within that 6 weeks there is 1 week that you're supposed to spend in addenbrooke doing emergency surgery. From what I understand, I think the main point was just to get us used to the on-call shift patterns that surgeons have, and also just to let us spend some time in theatres. So for the majority of the week we got to be in plastics theatres, general surgery, trauma and ortho. We got to spend some time with the anaesthetist. There were 4-hour slots from like 8 till 12, and then 2 till 6, and then 6 till 10 p.m. But it was so cool seeing surgery. Like, I still can't believe that I'm allowed to stand in a theatre whilst they literally excise a brain tumour in front of me and I'm just watching it live. Like, what? I will preface before we continue that I don't want to do surgery, I don't think. I've never seen myself operating on anyone, and I don't think I have the skill set to be a surgeon. It's not really for me, but it's still really cool to see. I think the amount that you gain from it definitely depends on the circumstance. If the surgeon or the anaesthetist are willing to teach you, it's so useful, but obviously sometimes they're too busy, and that obviously makes sense, but in that case you are just stood there and you kind of have no idea what's going on and your back ends up breaking. We then had our first week of surgery in the regional hospital. So for this one they've got like a 6-day rolling rota, where I think we're going to be in emergency, general, theatres and clinics, and trauma and ortho. Ironically, I was in emergency first, having just come out of a week of emergency surgery, but it was very different to Addenbrooke. So obviously Ipswich isn't a major trauma centre. I think they have like 1 emergency theatre. So we were supposed to spend time on SAU, so the assessment unit again, but this time it was we actually spent time there. So we got to go on the post-take ward rounds in the morning after handover. with the consultant and the rest of the team, and it was a really good time. I think it was the first time that we really felt like part of the team, because you were there for handover at 8 a.m. and then you would just follow everything through. On the ward round you had the list of patients. It was really daunting at first, but you really did feel like you were actually involved and part of something, which is nice when you're a medical student. It's quite a nice change. And I definitely learned a lot. The consultant would teach us on the ward round. By teach, I mean he would grill us, and I generally wouldn't know the answer to any of his questions. But I learned a lot, mainly about the gallbladder and pancreatitis. And in the afternoons, we would basically just either stand around waiting for something to do or actually clerk patients. And again, there was a lot of faith put in us. They would just give us the clerking booklet and be like, oh, you go talk to the patient, and then just tell me. It just makes you feel like you're actually doing something useful rather than being completely in the way. Overall, if you can't tell, I've definitely had a much better time this term than I did throughout preclinical. Maybe it's because we have had a lot more free time. It's nice having your weekends and not actually having to do work if you don't want to, and there's a lot less pressure to do work. And maybe it's also because we're actually able to put what we're learning into practice, and we're not just kind of learning stuff for the sake of an exam just to answer some multiple choice questions and then forget about it. It actually feels like what we're learning is useful and we're actually using it in real life with real patients. But it's been so much better. And I know that obviously it is going to get harder. Because as we go through, we're actually going to have to start prepping for exams, and the syllabus, of which there isn't one, the whole sort of curriculum of clin school is even less defined than pre-clin. It's very much you have to choose what you're going to learn and when you're going to learn it, which is a little bit daunting, for lack of a better word, even though I've used that word about 5 times in this video. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I'm not going to stress about that now. I've just got one more week, which is the R&I week, as I mentioned, and then I'm gonna enjoy Christmas, where I don't have to wake up at 6 a.m. every day. And speaking of purposeful learning and enjoying learning, this video is sponsored by Brilliant. Brilliant is a website where you can learn STEM interactively. Hands-on learning has been proven to be 6 times more effective than just watching lectures, and they've got a ton of different subjects on there, so there really is something for all interests and ability levels. They've got stuff ranging from basic maths to calculus, they've got physics, computer science, computational biology, literally so much. Their courses are all about thinking and not just rote learning and memorizing, so that you actually understand the concepts that you're learning. I've personally been doing the knowledge and uncertainty course on there, which is basically looking at interpreting information and how you can use that to quantify and deal with uncertainty. And it's so interesting. There's so much on there that I'm like, I've never thought about this in this way, and it's so applicable to your everyday life. I was learning about maximally informative questions and how you can gather information most efficiently, and I'm actually going to sit down and really have a think about how I can apply this to, for example, history taking, which is essentially trying to get as much information as you can, as efficiently as you can, because you don't have the time. And I was just sat there thinking, like, wow, it's so applicable. And yeah, they're just really thought-provoking, fun courses to take. They've got quizzes, they've got really good explanations. So whether you're a school or uni student and you're looking to supplement your learning, or you're just curious about learning more or about a particular topic, then Brilliant is the place to do it. You can head over to the link in my description box, and it'll be on the screen right now as well, to get started learning on Brilliant for free, and the first 200 people will also get 20% off an annual membership, which is always nice. So thank you so much to Brilliant for sponsoring this video. I will let you enjoy the clips that I have mainly from the first week of placement ever, so it's a little bit wild and chaotic, but yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, do give it a thumbs up. You can subscribe to my channel for more med school content, and yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye! Today's the day. Placement time. I am literally shitting bricks, but I'm just waiting for one of the girls to pick me up because we need to drive there. Obviously, it's really far. I think I've packed everything. Honestly, I feel like I'm definitely forgetting something. I'm gonna kick myself as soon as I get there and realize that I've forgotten something. Oh, lateral flow tests. That's what I'm... See, already. This is the current situation. There's like that, and then there's my actual bags, but I just don't know how much I'm gonna need. I honestly can't remember the last time I had this bad of a day, but
so nice to be back. I forgot how like my desk is so big. It's so like, so I'm back for the weekend, essentially. Going back on Sunday night. It's now Friday afternoon. I need to do so much laundry. I need to do so much work. But all I want to do is get into bed. So raining. Why is it raining?